Welcome back to the JA Inspire Virtual Career Fair. Your host, Dr. Troy Podell, and with me, very exciting guest, Executive Coach Parul Agarwal. Parul is a certified executive coach working closely with strong leaders driven to achieve results far beyond traditional measures. Leaders that are relentless in their passion to elevate their organization's impact while giving their teams value and purpose. She is certified as a professional leadership coach through St. Joseph's University, as well as with the International Coaching Federation. Her work is focused on developing leadership talent, effective communication, strategy, and creating self-awareness. Parul's career resume includes being an internal corporate employee, strategic consultant, or an executive coach for global, national, and local organizations, such as the law firm Morgan Lewis, McDonald's USA, Deloitte Consulting, Subway, TD Bank, Design Science Consulting, Newsy, and Malvern Preparatory School. You can find out more about Parul's awesome work at scopecommunicationsllc.com. Parul, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Troy. I'm excited to be here.
Can you inform us a little bit about why executive coaching? Like what inspired you to pursue this as a line of work?
You know, ever since I was little, I have really enjoyed listening to people, trying to understand what their challenge is or what's happening for them, and trying to find a solution. And I didn't really know that there was jobs that fit that category. I just knew that it was some level of service. So as I went through the different positions in my life, it's almost like it just brought me to where I am today, doing exactly what I love doing.
Can you talk to me a little bit about that career arc? Because I know that you've got a fascinating story about how you discovered coaching while you were in the corporate world.
Absolutely. You know, I've actually had positions that range from delivering pizza for Papa John's to selling diamonds while I was going to school, men's clothing, and then moving into more of the corporate space upon graduation, where I worked for companies like Subway or risk management firms like Marsh, and most recently with McDonald's. Through that journey, I was always more in the strategy and communication space. But what was interesting is the best part of my job has always been seeing the leaders that I work with excel to do amazing things. And it just sort of by gravitational pull almost, I would be the person that they would ask advice from or perspective from, because they knew I would always be honest with them. In that journey, through those processes and through the amazing leaders that I've had a chance to work with, I realized that I could do that for more people, because seeing great leaders make a positive difference for their staff, it's amazing to behold. It's like in the educational space, having that amazing teacher that makes you want to get up every day and go to class versus the one that you feel almost like it's daunting and you wish you could go home and be sick. So being able to work with leaders in that space is why I do what I do. And it's interesting that all of those career paths that I've taken have brought me to being able to do this every single day.
So Parul, take me through what executive coaching entails. So I call up Scope Communications LLC, or I email you and I say, well, let's have a coaching session. What does it look and feel like?
That's a really great question, actually, because a lot of people don't know what it's like. I think that I would start by saying that I don't have all the answers, Troy. I'm not the person who they call because I can help solve their problem. The person who can solve their problem is the person that actually called me. It's the person, the leader themselves. So the coaching session would really focus on understanding what challenge are they facing? Why did they feel the need to reach out for what they thought would be an executive coaching experience? What are their goals? What are their short-term and long-term desired outcomes? Basically, I would equate it to what view do you want to see from the top of the mountain? Which mountain do you want to go to? And what do you want to see? And through those conversations, through those coaching sessions, sometimes it takes one, sometimes it takes a few. The person that I would be coaching finally realizes what it is that provides them joy and helps them see themselves in a way that they want that desired view more than anything. And we work together to get there.
It sounds to me, and please disabuse me of the notion if I'm incorrect here, it sounds to me like it's a lot of asking the right questions versus pushing the right buttons. questions.
Perfectly said. Because I don't have all the answers for them, the only way for us to get to a place where that comes out, or those aha moments, is to ask the right questions and kind of take how they answer one question and think about, is there a different way I can ask it? Maybe help them see something differently. Not because, again, I know where the conversation should go. I can hear where it is that they want it to take them, and I help ask those questions to get them there.
And I have to tell you, as somebody that's making the climb, up the corporate ladder now, when you ascend to certain levels in leadership in organizations, folks sometimes have a hard time being honest with you, right? Because the power dynamic isn't necessarily on equal footing. The value of an executive coach and being able to say, not say to you, but get you to think out loud, maybe this isn't the best idea, or maybe I need to make a pivot. It's huge, absolutely huge.
It is huge, Troy, and you're absolutely right, because sometimes the conversations I have with leaders, they think it's going to go one way, but I ask a question and then it completely blows their mind. I can give an example. I have a client that I started working with, and in our first few minutes, she was explaining to me what she does, and she shared with me how people see her as very difficult to work with and how she made a pregnant person cry. And my question was, how does that make you feel to be the person that made a pregnant person cry? And it was almost like the whole weight of the world shifted for her. And those kinds of questions, although simplistic, it can change everything, because they start to see themselves differently than I think they woke up that morning seeing themselves, which is the whole point.
Parul, can you take us through a little bit of your educational journey and how that has informed the professional that you are now?
Absolutely. So I did my bachelor's of business from James Madison University, awesome school. I went on to work for a little bit, and then decided, while I was still able and not held down by other responsibilities of life, I wanted to go ahead and get my master's. So I went to NC State University, and that's where I met my husband, which he's awesome. From there, I went on to work all these great, amazing opportunities, from Subway to McDonald's, and just gathered as much knowledge and information as possible. And at the time, I didn't really realize how much I was actually absorbing. But as a coach now, I realize how much all of those steps took, helped me to create the version of myself that I am today. Aside from the educational pieces, as you mentioned in the beginning, I then went back to St. Joe's to become certified. And truly isn't because I don't feel like being a coach has to be about all these specific credentials. It's the ability to know you have the tools in your toolkit to help the leaders that come to you for help. So that's my journey.
And thank you for sharing it. Parul, I'm curious if a young person watching is looking at this interview and saying, like, hey, executive coaching sounds like something I might be interested in, or a career path I might want to pursue. What advice do you have for those young people?
I would say, if they're in the space of business, is probably where I would most dominantly see executive coaches coming from. And you got to go to school, you got to finish your education, whether that's undergraduate or graduate. I would start there. I would say that if this is something that interests you, find mentors, find people who are in leadership positions, or perhaps even someone that does coaching like me, and spend some time, ask questions, see what it's like. And from there, decide if that's something that excites you and makes you smile and feel good about the path that could take you on. Because being able to have that guidance, that mentorship, it will make all the difference in the world. They may be able to become an executive coach way faster than I did. So I would say, find the right people to talk to, pay attention, and finish going to school. Because without those experiences, Troy, it's really hard to sit in a room with leaders from any type of industry if you don't understand what they're talking about. You have to be able to relate to them in some way. So to get there, you have to have those experiences.
I think that makes a lot of sense. In the realm of experience, I've got one more question for you, Parul, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
You've got 17-year-old Parul by the shoulders. What do you tell her?
Oh, I love that. That's a great question. I would tell her a few things. First, I would tell her that you don't always have to look for the easiest way to get from point A to point B. That sometimes the journey is part of the experience. I would also tell her that if you want people to see you a certain way, then you got to show up as your best self. And I think if I would have known that when I was 17, it would have changed a lot of things as part of the growth that I personally had. And hopefully through this perspective, it helps somebody else that's listening to realize that people see you how you wish to be seen. And it's how you show up every day. So I think those would be the things that I would say. And then finally, as you work in different careers, just because you find yourself working for a leader that you don't feel sees you, or they make it very difficult for you, making them the source of how you measure yourself, don't do it. That is not how you should measure yourself. They actually become how you decide how not to be when you become a leader in someone's similar shoes. So I would say if I could go back, I would remind myself that that's not how I decide if I'm doing a good job or not. They're not the person by which to measure. So
the validation comes from internal, not external.
Exactly.
And it's crazy how often you can learn really poignant career lessons from counterexample.
Absolutely. And I think it's one of those things when you look back, you realize it, but being that I'm able to look back because I won't be 17 again, it's really great to share that those experiences helped to build who I was, but it's how I see myself and how I chose to show up after that makes the difference.
Parul, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us and for such an awesome interview. It's been such a pleasure.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for what you're doing for all these students. It means a lot.
Please stay safe. My best to you and your family. Our viewers will be right back with another exciting interview shortly.
Thanks, Troy.